all the time. If you are in a fight for your life, I assure you, you are more than likely going to try to get that fight over and done with as soon as you possibly can, which is going to involve you banging on that trigger as fast as humanly possible. So why not practice that in practice if that's the way we are actually going to perform? Why not do that really, really well in practice? Here's the deal. If you have the opportunity, if you have the time, and you have the presence of mind in an actual shooting to prep your trigger fully or control the actual actuation of the gun, would it not be better if I was really good at slapping the trigger and then had the opportunity to do it with finer detail in execution? It doesn't work the other way around. You can get as good as you want with a slow, steady squeeze, and then when we start slapping the trigger, if we're not used to it, what happens? Things start falling apart. So in actuality, what we're gonna practice slapping the trigger, and we're gonna see what we're actually capable of, and you are going to shock yourselves with how well you can do this. Why? Because you will have a steady grip. You will lock the structure behind the gun in place to the point where it doesn't matter at that point what you do with the trigger. You can slap it and you can be successful. So there are 3 tiers to trigger management. The first one is no pressure on the trigger whatsoever. This is the traditional slapping the trigger. What I'm saying is, I'm not talking about coming from the bleachers, coming from outside the trigger guard and wham, doing that. That's not what I'm referring to. When I say slapping the trigger, I mean my finger is touching the face of the trigger with no pressure on it whatsoever. From this point, we're gonna slap through, right? Then you have a middle ground where it's just what I call touch pressure. That's just leaning into the trigger just a little bit. Some folks would tell you that this is the pressure wall. It is not the pressure wall. It is not the wall that you need to get to. It is merely applying touch pressure to the trigger, and now we slap through the rest of it. The final one is, in fact, getting to and leaning into the pressure wall. That's here, right? That is where all I have to do is breathe on it and the gun's gonna go off from that prep point, right? How are we actuating though? We're still slapping through the rest of the little bit of the trigger that's left. So in all 3 of them, we are technically slapping, we're just slapping from different positions.